Hotep community, welcome back. This is week number 2, class number 2 with Keenan Booker Voodoo Edition. Welcome back, brother Keenan Booker and the family.
Appreciate it. We were going off of some questions Sister Hinton had for me with pertaining to some of the advertisements and the things that are correlated with the literature of the Voodoo Edition. So we're going to go ahead and let her ask any more questions that she has before we go through the timeline. So shoot.
So it's like a game, the creation of what we see now, because this is manifested into what we see. Before, maybe we didn't see it as prevalent, but we can literally see the grotesqueness of the nigga etiquette that was created.
Well, yeah, they're trying to destroy the nigga etiquette. What you see right here in my explanations and what I've done with my music and even the position Yoshima holds, and that is real nigga etiquette. We don't go out here carrying ourselves in a negative fashion. We're not out here robbing. We do not hold on to the current software stereotypes that the children of our captors are telling us. I don't wear a skinny jean. You see, right. I'm not wearing tight shirts and feminine, and a lot of Black people don't even know that that's feminine attire.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. I don't have excessive earrings. I don't have purple dreads. I don't follow what the stereotypes that come through the hip hop or through, media as what I need to be doing today because I have to stay up to date. Okay. We have a concentration of what we've been doing for eons, and we were fine with that. George Clinton, that's real nigga etiquette. Tupac, that's real nigga etiquette. James Brown, that's real nigga etiquette. Isaac Hayes, that's real nigga etiquette. You see what I'm saying? These are individuals who had no problem with expressing emotion, singing to their woman, maintaining their household, keeping it fly with a Cadillac. You understand me? Keeping my slacks creased, keeping some Stacey Adams on. That is real nigga etiquette and the way we conduct ourselves in the public light. And we have no problem with expansive wordplay. We're educated, you understand? But then we do not try to step away from all elements of what our culture is. So you have the fraternity Negro, right? The fraternity Negro tries to despise the areas of his culture. You know what I'm saying? You having an afro is real nigga etiquette, especially for a Black woman of today. You see what I'm saying? Having the perm and having the blonde hair is not real nigga etiquette. That is subordinate bullshit. You see what I'm saying? That's the line. That is the line. So, we're comfortable within ourselves, and we don't try to shy away from all the areas of our culture. We have an understanding and also a grasping of what that is. When it comes to our public socialism, we carry ourselves with the highest level of conduct and etiquette. Okay, that's what that is. I should have titled this literature a little bit different because it's the Voodoo Edition and whatnot, and it doesn't really sync with the Real Nigga Etiquette book that is an addendum to the Black Man's Bible. But out of my own disgust, and it's even in my natal chart, that I despise things quickly. So there was a lot of despise and a lot of disgust that came up personally in my own system when dealing with the information that I discovered during the research of the Voodoo Edition that just made me just throw it to the wall.
Yeah, I was disgusted when I look back at the replay, and I was trying to probably rationalize it too much, because you know, it is really challenging to find a man who want to wear crease pants, Stacey Adams, or not wear a pair of sneakers.
Mm-hmm.
For many women, you know, we as many of us have attempted throughout the years to lower the standard to accommodate that type of
what do you mean? What do you mean?
So when I look at the pictures, what I see is a caricature.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I think about many of the men today, that's how they operate.
That's amazing.
Hey, how you doing?
I'll hit you later, bro.
Doing great, you guys. I'm on the run. I got a little note that, are you coming? I'm like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be on a Zoom class. Anyway, I'm good.
Okay. Hey, everybody, I'm back. What's going on, Melinda? What's going on, Maria?
Hey,
is everybody else new? Yeah. Ralph, what's going on, Ralph?
But I want you to finish your statement, Ms. Hinton, on how you were saying we hold. Go ahead.
Somehow, I'm gonna give you my card just in case you do something or I do
mute
something.
yourself, Maria.
Okay, go ahead.
So I saw that as a caricature, and then and it just crossed my mind. The conjuring of the caricature has gotten worse.
Mm-hmm.
And it has gotten worse because those men who carry themselves in etiquette have not reached back to assist in not developing that caricature.
Okay, I see what you're saying. You're leaning more towards the corporate, the fraternity, the secret boule black male of America.
Yeah, I'm not even leaning towards him. I just, average goddamn Joe. That has some form of understanding what that looks like.
Okay, let's do that. Some form of understanding. Understanding is a developed situation, right? And it's going to come from literature. It isn't something that just comes out of your great inclination of your melanin. That is not how this works. Intelligence is a thing that is developed and exercised throughout the course of an individual's life. And it goes through engineering processes. You have to build certain processes of thought. It does not come out of sacred melanin. That's not how this thing works. Okay. It comes from collegiate understanding. It comes from repetitive reading. Okay. And sometimes that reading may be of your own, or sometimes it may be through a form of leadership. But if you do not do due diligence, you do not have that comprehension. One thing that made me exclusively angry while reading this material was the Europeans observed that about Native people and stated that with in the letters that they wrote to Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, that they don't teach their children. Now, when I look at my life, I wasn't taught how to change a tire. I wasn't taught nothing about oil. I wasn't taught anything about taxes or financial literacy or anything of that nature. And when I asked all the males that I know, neither were they. And they had their fathers in their lives. They had their mothers in their lives, but they were not taught the details of this civilization and how to operate in it in a standpoint to be progressive, add towards to the society, or give or care about people in a mass in a mass level, and they weren't able to provide in a mass level. So if you don't have the intellect to teach, you're not going to teach. And if you don't have the innate drive to be due diligent on what's going on in your society and how it was structured and how your people are related to it, how you individually are related to it, then you have nothing to provide. So, and this goes back to what's going on with black male psychosis when they get around the ages of 30 and 40 years old. They don't understand the importance of achievements and accomplishments. And due to the fact they don't understand achievements and accomplishments, why don't they? Because they weren't enforced to understand achievements and accomplishments as a child, which was the responsibility of their own parents. So these black males that you're identifying that don't give back or just put on the three-piece suit and they go to Harvard and disappear is because they don't have an intelligence that lets them know these achievements and accomplishments should be affected towards their coach themselves first, their family, their culture, and the progression thereof when it comes to being expansive in your intelligence and being interested in things. That's another thing.
Can I interject, my brother?
We don't have a far interest rate.
Can I interject?
Go ahead.
You and I had this conversation prior to putting this webinar on for the community, and my community and the framework that we have developed. I'm going to say this: the nigga, which we call fourth frequency in our work, the nigga is dead. It's. I'm sorry. I get it. I totally understand from a nigga perspective, from a fourth frequency perspective. But there are no niggas in Wakanda. There's no niggas in Kemet. This culture, and I agree with you, Sandra, in that. I just had this literally, it's crazy. I just had this conversation with Clyde 2 days ago, preparing for the show for Thursday, and we were talking about this very thing. What happened where black men started wearing gym shoes, because they're not sneakers, gym shoes with suits, and going to work and going to church and going to when I was a kid, you had to have shoes. You wore shoes. You didn't wear you wore sneakers or gym shoes, what we called them back in the day, to play out in the playground and go to school, gym and stuff like that. You have to understand that this social engineering is to turn this quote unquote nigga culture, is to turn black men and black women into boys and girls, because that's how we're behaving. We're behaving like children. We have what I think what we call a real deep arrested development, and the nigga is dead, dude. You remember when I talked to you, I said, bruh, first of all, I love your work, I love your research, but just as you talk about how second frequency developed business and ideas and what have you, black people, first frequency people, B1 people are not going to be fucking reading a book in a train or a bus or wherever that has a real nigga etiquette on it. That's just, and then Voodoo Edition. You in a very real, and I understand your position, but you were working against yourself. No, because hold on, wait a minute. This is where I say, let the Reverend Doctor talk. This one I have to get this shit out because it's important for us to understand. You are representing and you are growing. Now I'm gonna tell you this. You might agree with it. 10 years from now, when you're starting to look at that age of 50, all this shit that I'm talking about to you will probably make some sense. Because, brother, no one respects a nigga, period. It doesn't matter the connotation. It doesn't matter what you put behind it. It doesn't matter how you explain it, whether it's negus or negos or whatever You know, nigger, we know, is a royalty name from Europe. But guess what? We ain't gonna start calling ourselves niggers. Okay? Because it's too convoluted, corrupted by this interruption. They take everything and they completely bastardize. The swastika used to be a Buddhist symbol for peace and love. They took it and made it. So, bruh, all of this trap music, gangster rap music, what have you. Watch this. I come from the era of the last poets. That was poetry. It was rap, but it was poetry. Hip hop came about from oppression of a group of people who have been socially engineered to be so impoverished and so erased that they had to do what we call, back in the days, it was called flossing. I have to show you, look at me, I got some new sneakers. That's how low we have gone. Ain't nothing sexy about this shit. I'm sorry. It's not.
Hold on. Are you getting what I'm saying wrong?
Keenan is not making this sexy.
Exact. Thank you.
No, I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are. I'm saying you have to, when you are, it's almost like you're suffering from a double identity crisis, right?
No.
That's what it, no. What, okay, let me ask everybody this question.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
When you hear the word or see the cover, real nigga etiquette, are you going to pick that book up and read it?
But here's the thing. If you don't, it's your loss.
Yes, but are you working against yourself? Because there could be millions of Black people that could benefit if you spoke the language. I'm a marketer, bro. I've been doing this for 30 years. Okay, I know this shit like nobody else. You have no idea. I've worked with everybody. I've worked with the Gladys Knights, the Patti LaBelles. I've interviewed In Vogue, Jimmy Jam, Terry. I've worked at the highest fucking level, so I know marketing for sports people. The late Gerald Levert, all of these cats. I know how to. I'm the guy who is the memeticist. I'm the guy who introduced the community to the understanding of linguistics. You can't sell something to someone on a negative and try to make it sexy. And I understand that nigga is just supposed to be a term of endearment, you know. And I understand what you're trying to.
No shit, like Sister Hinton said, I'm not trying to make it sexy, bro.
Okay,
that's not what's happening.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
When I talked to you, we had a long conversation.
This is called caricature.
I said I understand that, but most people, what have you done in terms of your book covers and titles that tells people that? Do you know how much convincing you have to do to get people to say, okay, I got it now, but I'm not a nigga. I don't want to be identified as a nigga.
Right. That's small thinking. I'm macro thinking. I'm not micro thinking.
Okay. All right.
Now,
let me show you something. I
would buy the book.
Here's the thing.
Because I'm in psychology, and I would purchase the book.
Here's the thing. We called the white man a caveman for eons on YouTube, right? So when YouTube came out, we're calling a white man caveman this, caveman that. And they saw it. White people saw it. Some of the highest levels of the corporate industry saw it. They said, oh, they're calling us cavemen, so let's give the caveman a Geico commercial. Did they not do that?
Mm-hmm.
Did they give the caveman his own TV show?
Mm-hmm.
Now, so they elevated the caveman to a position of royalty, and you can no longer do what? Call them a caveman, and it has a negative connotation, correct?
No.
It doesn't work.
I don't think so.
It doesn't work.
How does that transfer to nigga?
How that transfers to nigga is Real Nigga Etiquette Voodoo Edition is actually the only book of mine that has went viral amongst academia.edu. So professors across the whole entire planet at some of the most prestigious universities looked at that book and looked at the title and said, oh my God, the research that was done here, you know, as France has the book valued at over $300, I can show you that right now. They got it valued at like 290 something. I can show you that's what they're selling it for in France right now at this very moment. So they understand that nigga has a way higher level understanding than what we thought, and we have underestimated the value of what nigga is. So in reality,
I got a question for you. What is your thought on this?
So in reality, hold on. So in reality, I took nigga and I put it back to its original context, which in Ethiopia, like I explained, is negas, Negas, which means king. So
I got that. That is absolutely scientifically factual.
Yeah, so I put it in its proper context.
But it's not on the cover of the book.
Yeah, it's not on you didn't put nigga, you put nigga.
So it doesn't make it's the same when it comes to orthology, it's the same thing. It's the same sounding. No. Niggas, same thing.
Nigga and niggas is two different things. Tupac tried to do nigga. He said, never ignorant getting goes accomplished. That shit didn't fly, and he was worldwide. So nigga to me is what you say, hoe ass nigga, punk ass nigga. There's a lot of shit that goes along with nigga that drags it in the mud. So when you try to change the narrative on a word that has already been changed, it's like deleted, trash that shit. We got other words. We're creative.
In reality, I didn't try to do any of that. If you listen to what I said, I got angry at the information that I discovered while researching the book and just threw it to the wall and let it be what it was. That's what I told you.
I get.
And I've said that many times.
Respect.
I've said that many times here. So just because of the fact that you're hung up on a word, and white people be like, oh, they call us caveman, let's put them on a Geico commercial, and you're still sitting over here arguing about a word, shows if the brain is at micro or macro. My brain operates at macro. Yeah, I don't.
All right. I mentioned
I love you.
Amma.
That's the only thing I don't agree with. I just don't agree.
You feel that? Do you feel the energy from Amma? Amma.
No,
nigga,
I don't.
Nigga. Okay, which one would you rather be called?
How about this? How about this?
A nigga.
How about this?
Sorry, man.
If you don't like the title,
and I'm from the street.
If you don't like the title of the book, brother, you ain't got to be here. It's that simple. If you're so offended by the title of the literature, then why are you reading it? You don't have to be involved. It's that simple.
Look, Melinda's wiping her. Okay, that's when black women start wiping her brow. It's like, oh shit,
bro. I don't care. How about this? What
do you have to say about this, Melinda? We've had this conversation before.
I think where I am with it is, okay, let me say this. For me, I'm here because I know Keenan's work, right?
Right.
Because honestly, when I did see that title, I was like, that's not, I'll pass on that one. I'll get some of his other stuff. But because we know him,
right,
and we know that he's a scholar, that's why I came on in. That's number one. Number two, I think with all of us, we can all agree there's certain things that we all say that we don't agree with, right?
Sure.
And then we can agree to disagree.
Absolutely.
With me, the way I am personally as a person, I like to learn because one, I want to see how am I going to apply whatever's being taught to my life right now.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of stuff that's going on in our community right now. So when I'm looking at all of this, honestly, I don't give a fuck what the white people in France and they paid this, and I don't care. They're going to do that because they have the opportunity to do that. What I want to know is, first of all, how am I going to apply the information to me? Mm-hmm. And as a therapist, let me not say therapist because that's two words, the rapist. As a counselor,
I like that.
I won't be raping
Come on now. Come on.
But
now.
as Sandra was saying, right, you know, we're counselors. So okay, let me get into what this is all about, right? Because I am going to come across some, yo, I'm that nigga, or I'm that bitch, I'm that hoe, I'm a stallion, yeah, baby, all of that, right? That we're going to have to work through. So I agree with what is being shared by all of us. And my thought is, no, I don't like the nigga part, but because I am who I am, just personally, I want to get in there, delve into it, understand, okay, where was Keenan coming from? What's the information? How can I use that? And we were talking about teaching earlier. How can I teach? Can I take something from here and teach it, or use it in my counseling practice, right? Or just being an everyday mama,
or for yourself personally,
to strengthen myself, my family, my community. So that's my take.
Ashe.
And then I read a lot of books. So there is a book called The Nigger Heaven. You could go look it up. There is a book called The Nigger Bible, which is written by Robert Decoy, that came out during the 60s and the whole revolutionary time period. This word has been used before any of us was born. We've all heard it from our own relatives. During the course of all that time, we have been on the top of Billboard charts. We have received a lot of golds in the Olympics. This is not trying to justify the usage of the word. Like I stated, at the end of the book, I got so infuriated. It shouldn't even have the cover that it has of a herald dragon on it. That's what that is. That's a herald dragon, okay? Now, it shouldn't even have that on the cover. But I was so pissed at what I discovered about the activity of tribal people and what was going on during those times that I just threw it all to the wall, okay? I said, just get it out, get it done, get it over with. I'm done. Because it infuriated me. And what I got infuriated about was our collective mentality and a lot of the things that we do not have in our mass psychosis, or our mass understanding and comprehension of existence. We don't have a unification. Unfortunately, I do have to state that when we had wooden pews in old school churches and you got to be able to talk to your preacher, nigga was one of those words that was in the air during those times. Okay, we could travel from New York to LA and be like, hey, nigga, where's this at? Where's the barbershop at? And it wasn't a problem, okay? So unfortunately, we had a time period of this word being used during slavery, but if we do the real research, this word has been used all across the planet in different areas. You see what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that to justify it. So like I stated, it was done out of a blind anger, okay, at what I discovered during those times, okay? And we're supposed to be going through a timeline. We didn't waste about 40 minutes talking about a word.
Let's get it in. Let's
get it in. Okay, we're going to go right here to the timeline. Everybody see what I'm looking at? Okay.
Yes.
So I got to go through this quickly because we've spent so much time on that.
You're going to need to enlarge that. It's too small. Can you enlarge it?
Is that better?
A little bit bigger.
Let me see what we got here. Right here. You ready?
I don't have to do it. All right.
Okay. So what we're looking at, let me be brief with this. This is a skimming over. Okay. This is a general. This is, we have some details, but we do not have all of the details. So, for instance, when we talk about Christopher Columbus, there's a lot of details that people want to bring out, facts about this and that. All of that is not here. What we have done here is to put certain context on what happened during the timeline that brought us into the position that we're at now, and which got the whole American situation started. Excuse my phone in the background. But anyways, 1492, there's over 2 million Taino and Arawak Indians living in Hispaniola. And that's also 1492, August 3rd, Christopher Columbus set sail from Spain to find an all-water route to Asia. His ship crashed lands, and it is noted that there was Moors that assisted within his direction of traveling across the ocean, okay? Those details are not in this literature, all right? The Portuguese were given the whole continent of Africa underneath a bull written by Pope Alexander VI, okay? This is in 1493. And this is part of the reason why the Portuguese had also a large slave trade on the east of Africa, okay? The Atlantic slave trade was supposedly a lot more aggressive, and as for instance, they castrated all the slaves that were going into the Islamic territories that came from Africa, okay? So this is part of, if you want to go find out more details about the Atlantic slave trade, just go to the Portuguese, okay? This bull that was written by Pope Alexander VI, okay? The bulls of donation, okay? This is in 1493. Are 3 papal bulls of Pope Alexander VI delivered in 1493 granted overseas territories such as Africa to Portugal, the Portuguese, and the Catholic monarchs of Spain. Dudum sequitum, meaning a short while ago, addressed to the Catholic monarchs Isabella I of Castile and Ferdinand II of Aragon, which supplemented the bull Inter Caetera and purported to grant to them all islands and mainlands whatsoever, found and to be found, discovered and to be discovered, there are or may be or may seem to be in the route of navigation or travel towards the west or south, whether they be in western parts or in the regions of the south and the west and the east of India. So there was a level of law litigation that was already exercised when it comes to the ownership of properties, just the ownership of properties. And they adjusted this situation over to Africa and other islands without the islanders understanding this litigation and this process that was going on, okay? Because they didn't operate in similar format. This also brings me to the fact that I wanted to introduce about the word mosquito. The mosquito is actually a tribe in South America. Then you see how they've merged that word onto an insect that causes problems or causes, agitation towards us today. So, and the mosquitoes are black, okay? And it's spelled Miskito. And this same tribe was brought into the islands to attack the Maroons, okay? So 1493, second voyage arrives in Haiti. At the time it was called La Navidad, Feliz Navidad, right? What you say during Christmas, right? So arrives with 1,200 men and boys, horses, and 20 war dogs. So the owners of the war dogs, which at that time were big mastiffs, and also I think greyhounds were being utilized for the same purpose. So 1495, Vega Real, the first battle ever between European invaders and native Indian people, okay? And 1501, King Ferdinand I and Queen Isabella of Spain granted permission to the colonists of the Caribbean to import African slaves. They began arriving to the island of Santo Domingo in 1503. In 1503, betrayal of Hispaniola's Queen Anacaona. Queen Anacaona is also where the name Anaconda comes from. She and her subjects are massacred by the Spanish governor of Hispaniola, Nicolas de Ovando. Now, also to speak about that, there was a lot of queens that were slaughtered during this time, and also individuals that were slaughtered because they were seeking information or seeking war guidance from their queens. And you have to understand, in the 1500s, Europeans were already burning their witches in Europe. So they already had a mentality of not listening to women, and women were like war enemies at the same time. So this mentality also shifted over to the activities of the islands, okay? So 1508, an estimated 400,000 Tainos living on the island were enslaved to work in gold mines. By 1508, their numbers had decreased to around 60,000 because of forced labor and hunger. which was disease and mass killings. By 1535, only a few dozen were still alive. So what happened was the harsh environments of overload work was not how they operated. And if you study tribes, even to this day, it only takes them 4 to 5 hours to get the food and the things that they need for their survival in their cultural group, okay? 4 to 5 hours out of a week, okay, is all they needed to gain the foods, catch an animal, or whatever the case it was that let them survive, okay? So overload work would immediately collapse a lot of people, and that's what you're seeing right here with the numbers decreasing. In 1510, Hatui's insurrection, a slavery uprising, which that is also discussed in the book at a later in a later area. In 1513, the importation of black slaves into Cuba was initiated by Cuba's governor Diego Velázquez de Celular. Okay, in 1517, less than 60,000 Taino Arawak Indians live on Hispaniola. 1520, French pirates take over the Caribbean. Okay, 1521, by August, the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan had fell to the Spanish. Okay, so this is showing you that by 1521, they were already in the Mexican region, which this is past the islands, and going to war with the Aztecs and the Incas and all the different groups that was there. Okay, that's including the Mayans. So the Spanish explorer Lucas Vasquez de Ayllón established the first European colony. It was a short-lived attempt to settling in what is now the United States. A fleet consisting of 6 vessels carrying about 600 to 700 passengers and crew was assembled. Some women, children, and African slaves were included among the settlers. Ayllón's account of the region inspired a number of later attempts by the Spanish and French governments to colonize the southeastern United States. Okay. In 1530, slavery uprising by blacks in Mexico. 1537, the Pastoral Officium was an apostolic brief issued by Pope Paul III. It declares that anyone who enslaved or despoiled indigenous Americans would be automatically excommunicated. Okay, well, there's a double entendre there. Saying excommunicated really means nothing during that time period, because that means you would have to live in Americas where they're doing all the slaughtering, and criminals during that time period were accustomed towards slaughtering, and that's what they looked for. So you best believe there was a lot of extra occult practices that we discovered in the Kicked Out of Heaven that was occurring on the people during that time. So being excommunicated is the same thing as going to jail today. You're just being taken out of the society, okay? And their original society was Europe, which it really didn't matter. They were in new lands, but these new lands were not comfortable for Europeans at the same time. If we pay attention to the Crusades of St. Louis, we see that, you know, TIA, this is Africa. And when white people come into these hot, humid lands, they fall like flies. So it's very hard for them to survive in these in the tropical conditions, because that's not where they're from. Okay. So the first Negro slaves arrive in Brazil in 1538. 1540, 10,000 Negroes a year are being imported to the West Indies by 1540. Okay. 1542, Dominican friar and historian Las Casas noted that Jamaica, Cuba, Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and 30 neighboring islands had been completely depopulated of Indians. It has also been stated that the islands had to be repopulated every 10 to 20 years due to a mortality rate. Are we understanding? So that means the original Indians ain't there. Okay. And if they are there, they're there maybe by 5% DNA. And that's from the mating practices that was going on and the human engineering that was going on. I'm trying to think of De La Casa's first name because I have his book. Las Casas, all you should be able to do is just put that in Google and it'll show. I think it's Bartholomew, I think is the name. But I can't think of it right now. But Las Casas, just put that in on your Google and it should pull up the book that he wrote about the things that he saw when he was down there. He was a friar, Dominican friar. So what happened is they would send somebody down there like Christopher Columbus, who could be a quote unquote pirate to our understanding. And then they would also send a bishop to represent Catholicism or to document the activities of what the individuals were doing to the natives. And they are not clean. Their hands are not clean. They were involved in a lot of the slaughtering as well. So the first war of the Bayano in Panama took place from 1548 to 1558, while the second war took place from 1579 and 1582. And that was definitely with the natives that was in that location. And you best believe some remnants of ancient civilizations, warriors were involved in that. In 1572, the Viceroy of Peru, Francisco Toledo, declares war on the Neo-Inca state. Tupac Amaru, the last Inca emperor, is captured and executed in Cuzco, hence Cusco. The Neo-Inca capital of Vilcabamba is abandoned. The Spanish remove inhabitants and relocate them to the newly established Christian town of San Francisco de la Victoria de Vilcabamba. Now, Tupac Amaru is an Inca title of royalty. There was 3 of them. All 3 of them and their demise are discussed in this book, are presented in this book. The last one, which is the last Inca emperor mentioned here, was drawn and quartered and head put on a pike and that whole entire situation. And it was ritualistic, and it is comparative to the Tupac Amaru that we know of to today, and also how we go about the worship of him, okay? 1574, a census taken of the Greater Antilles reported 1,000 Spaniards and 12,000 African slaves in Hispaniola. So we have to understand that if there's only 1,000 Spaniards and there's 12,000 African slaves, there was a high level of debauchery and torture that went down on the individuals that were killed in front of them. Way worse than what you read in the Willie Lynch letter, okay? And due to tribal understandings of what death is and what occurs to you after death, which may have been built up over time, it could be real, it could not be real. We don't know what lies after the situation of the casket door. We don't know what lies after death. So it struck a high level fear that they didn't want to be taken out of this world in similar format of what was being done to those in front of them. And that was a psychological control that kept slaves in that place. Hence, when we go into American slavery, we see situations of one slave master and a couple of overseers over 500 something slaves over a stretch of 5-10 miles, okay? And that's how it was able to be done, was to control the socialism and to control that socialism through a hence of fear, which is similar to today. Y2K was a fear. You see what I'm saying? We have, the 2012 event was supposed to be a great fear. That's all. I don't listen to none of that shit, you know. So, but it is part of the systems that they put in place. Oh, Bitcoin collapsed, you know. Oh, the banking is going to collapse. There's going to be no more dollar bill. Like, just shut the fuck up, you know. That's where my brain goes to, because it's like, you know, you done this fear thing on repeat road and ain't nothing happened yet, my dude. You're full of shit. You see what I'm saying? And that's the way I look at it. So 1575, 1591, 52,000 slaves were sent from Angola to Brazil and the Spanish Indies. Do not forget that one of the worst prisons in America, in Louisiana, is titled Angola. Okay? That's what it's named. In Louisiana, and Louisiana is French, okay? I do believe this is one of the prisons where they still wear striped clothing, okay? Now, in 1577, Spain decreed 15,000 Negro slaves should be shipped from Africa to Hispaniola. 1592, Frederick de Houtman listed Columba as the dove with the olive branch. Now, we're going into cosmological intelligence here. When you look up the symbol of Columba, it is the dove in our astrological system. So when you say astrology, we're not just talking about 12 signs. There's actually 88, okay? So when you include the 88, now we have a larger range of what symbols mean in our flag system and our heraldry system and things of that nature. So when we talk about Columba, Columba is the dove in in astrology. Okay, so let me see what we have here. Buyers, y'all know that word. Buyers is a medicine group, right? Ain't that one of the pharmaceutical companies, right? Okay, Buyers Uranometria was published. It includes Columba as Columba Noshi, Noah's dove. Noah's dove. So they took the science of Noah and added it to the ship format of what was going on here. You see, this is all science and a lot of metaphysics that they're operating by back in these times, okay? And they added the whole energy of Noah to the slave ships to bring them to the islands. Now, Benko Bioho and Maroon founded the first free town of Africans in the Americas, the San Basilio de Palenque in Colombia. 1605, England lays claim to Barbados. In 1617, 28,000 slaves were being shipped annually from Angola to the Congo. Okay. All right. And I think Angola must be further east than it is Congo. I know Congo is a central country in Africa. So as a lot of slaves were being walked, some of them had to walk for over half a year to a year to get to the coast, okay, before they were shipped out through the Golden Coast, Ivory Coast, you know, that whole region, Nigeria and all of that. First slaves arrive in Jamestown, Virginia. That's in 1619. The first African slaves are brought to North America on an English privateer ship to the English colony of Point Comfort. This is where you will be comfortable as a slave. Is Point Comfort is where they were brought, okay? 1622, Partus Sequitur Ventrum, 1622, British law regarding slavery in the colonies. So that is the law regarding slavery, if you want to look it up right there, okay? 1623, Negroes are listed as servants in the American census. 1644, the Brazilian Jew Benjamin da Costa introduced sugar cane from Java into the Antilles and brought about a great economic revolution. So that word Java is also a brand of sugar today, isn't it? I think I've seen that word Java as a brand of sugar that's sold inside the store. A lot of the brands of sugars that we use are named after these islands in different historical situations that went on in the islands in South America and whatnot. 1655, Britain takes over Jamaica. The Spaniard slaves ran to the hills. After arriving in the hills, they intermarried with the Tainos that were left over and created the Maroons, okay? These are called the Blue Hills, as a matter of fact. In 1661, the Barbados Slave Code was written, okay? 1663, the Maryland Assembly passed a measure providing that all Negroes in the colony should be regarded as slaves, and it also outlawed racial intermarriages. Diverse, free-born English women, forgetful of their free condition, did intermarry with slaves. Such women are to be slaves of their husbands' masters. Many white women were forced to be married to black men, which brought allowance for white men to treat them as slaves. This allowance turned into its own slave trade system called white slavery, which also existed in America all the way up until I think about the 19th. Well, actually, it's still utilized on the books to this day. White slavery, okay? Hence, it is also magic to encode white women to be submissive like all others in the root fabric of Americanism, okay? So the white male was able to utilize his white woman in slave position by law, which also enforced a lot of the submissiveness that we witness today of white females supporting white males. It wasn't actually done by their own choosing. It was done by enforcement, which could also be related to the witch burnings that was going on in Europe. At the same time, 1663, there was still witch burnings going on in Europe during this time period. So to encode women into white slavery was an easy situation for the white male collective to do, okay? Oh, I went a little bit too far ahead here. Okay, here.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
What did that white slavery look like?
What did it look like?
Yeah, what were they required to do?
Basically, they were required to marry a black male, and then you best believe there was a lot of perversion that was going on with the whole scenario. You could believe that, but the children that let's talk about it. The children, especially the female children that came from this scenario, were called the fancy trade, and this is where we begin to understand the sexualization of light skin. Okay. Now the fancy trade was a situation where they sold these light-skinned women for damn near like $2,000, $3,000 at the slave market, and $2,000, $3,000 was annual payment for an overseer during these times. So a light-skinned woman with green or blue eyes or whatever, gray eyes or whatever, or even brown eyes, as long as she had light skin and had that body shape that the black and white union creates, was basically like a Bentley or a Rolls Royce. Okay. And what we're looking at is human engineering being put into law. Okay. So this is beauty engineering. This is also our current fantasization of Beyonce or the rapper Lotto or, Lena Horne and all of these other light-skinned individuals. They automatically fall into that category, especially as females and the sexualization that goes with it. And also the females of America sexualize light-skinned males, the Al B. Shores and all of that type of stuff, and that's been going on. That's been a part of our situation in America. And then on the other side, there is an anger that comes with this, because light-skinned individuals get sexualized by both black and white, then they also get publicly denied by black and white. Okay, so because they get publicly denied and then they also get sexualized, there is a unique anger that comes about, and that anger also stems from the orphan mind and being neglected by the father, being neglected by the mother, and things of that nature when it comes to public, being in public. And even if they aren't ignored by the father and the mother and they are there, what does occur is the way the public relates to them. Okay, sort of like the story of what happened with Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard, his father was killed right in front of him, right? And so Terrence Howard sort of experienced that directly. And that's a thing that's been going on in America for a very long time. This is also the root reasoning on why we have the Huey P. Newtons and the Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad, the Farrakhan. They're all light-skinned because they have that innate anger to express that people are attracted to, because it's a thing that we don't have. A black child is going to be honed in with their family as being black. Their mom and dad is black. So they all have a unification and experience. When you have a white mother and a black father and you come out as a light skin, what do you identify with?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? You see, it's a difficult psychological space. So let me go on here.
Thank you for that.
All right. 1676, the first slave rebellion of Saint Domingue is led by Padre John. He led a slave rebellion near Port de Paix in the north of Saint Domingue. Okay. In 1680 to 1688, the Royal African Company had 249 slavers in operation, and these embarked 60,783 slaves when traveling the transatlantic. Only 46,396 survived. So that's already 14,000 people that disappeared right there. And a lot of different situations that happened with the slave ships, which will be going on. We'll be talking about the slave ships in the next episode. Okay. Ratio for blacks to whites is 2 to 1 in 1681. In 1687 to 1865, Virginia enacted more than 130 slave statutes. Okay. The Code Noir, which is written in France, is implemented by the French in the Caribbean. Okay, so the Code Noir is specific, and it is inside the book. Okay, the Code Noir, the whole thing, and all of its articles. Okay. In 1697, the Spanish ceded the western part of the island, Hispaniola, to the French, who named their colony Saint Domingue, which is Haiti. Ratio for blacks to white is 3 to 1. In the 1700s, the southern colonies are receiving 1,000 slaves a year coming directly from Africa. 1713, the yearly exportation of slaves from Africa is anywhere between 40,000 and 100,000 a year. 1720, Queen Nanny of Jamaica assumes control of land to establish Nanny Town. And we'll be talking about Nanny of the Maroons later on in the book. 1718, 1740, the kingdom of Dahomey military was expanded under King Agaja. In 1733, St. John's Revolt or Rebellion becomes the longest insurrection in the Caribbean. The slaves, led by the natives from Aquamu, overpowered and killed 5 of the 6 Danish soldiers. When outnumbered, they still would not submit to captivity and slavery, exceeding more than a dozen men and women, including one of the leaders named, shot and killed themselves before the French could even catch them. In 1758, Francois Mackendal is burned at the stake for organizing a failed rebellion. He created poisons from island herbs. He distributed the poison to slaves, who added it to the meals and refreshments they served the French plantation owners and planters. He was a maroon slave that organized several rebellions in St. Domingue. In 1760, there was another rebellion called Tacky's War. 1760, Jamaican legislation of 1760 enacted that any Negro or slave who shall pretend to any supernatural power and be detected in making use of any materials relating to the practice of obeah or witchcraft in order to delude or impose upon the minds of others shall, upon conviction thereof, before 2 magistrates and 3 freeholders, suffer death or transportation. This is evidence of the practice or notion of zombieism amongst the voodoo. Hence, it has to be in existence in order to be written in law, okay? So always understand that, because there's a lot of areas in history where you have to depend on a law to discover what was going on with the social activities. And that's why I wrote that it has to be in existence in order for it to be written in law. You're not going to go against something that you have not experienced. You see what I'm saying? So because it has occurred, they had to write a law against it. And obeah was one of the magic systems of many that were going on during that time that have been structured, of course, by the amalgamation and the grouping of a lot of different peoples, okay? Slave revolt in 1763, slave revolt led by Cuffy in Guyana. 1768, the Código Negro Emperor infest the Spanish colonies. 1779, slaves were not allowed to wear shoes and their clothes were not to be as well as whites. This was written into law. Okay. And one of those reasons it was written into law is because a lot of the children that were coming out of interracial marriages were being sent back to France to be educated. So once they went back to France to be educated, and this is also a part of the story of Chevalier, which we were talking about before the show started. Once they went back to France and they were being taught politics, they were being taught the structure of government, they were being taught a lot of different things pertaining to revolution and war, and that we didn't understand, and Europeans had exercised for eons. They have that type of history going all the way down to Greece. Okay, so once a lot of these interracial children or mixed children were being taught that, and they were tired of the abuse, France would write law that, the mulatto can't do nothing here in France, blah, blah, blah. So they were sent back to the islands. So when they went back to the islands, and now they're being treated like slaves, which they were being treated like royalty in France, and then it got shut down, and then they started getting treated by slaves in the islands. They thought up revolution as they were being taught in France. So they gathered together the people and tried to revolt. And part of this law right here about the clothing was to break these mixed children down into the slave position. And you could not claim a royal position while in the islands, even though you were educated royally, you see. So it was a big conundrum in their mind, and a big loss of grace, a loss of power, a loss of respect. And that's what infuriated them to start a lot of these revolutions that occurred, okay? So here we go. 1780, Battle of Sangarara was fought on November 18, 1780 in Peru between rebel forces under Tupac Amaru II and Spanish colonial forces. Tupac Amaru's II forces were won decisively. Historical casualty estimates for the Spanish ranged from 300 to 576. Estimates for rebel casualties number only 15 killed and 30 wounded. So here's a situation where the natives did win wars. And this is also a case in Africa. There was a couple of situations where the tribal people fought against the British and the like and did win in the course of war, okay? But here's one of the tactics that I'll give you that Europeans utilized during the whole course of not only the islanders, but also the Native Americans. And what they would do was they would come, they would trade with you. And they would trade and they would sit down with you and eat your food and everything was merry. And then they would leave John there and say, you know, we're going back to our land. We got to go. If you want to stay here, that's fine. We're in sync with the people, blah, blah, blah. So then they'll go back to Europe. And when they go back to Europe, they'll tell John's children, oh, your father didn't come back. He was taken by the savages, blah, blah, blah. They'll raise their children and the whole next generation that they were attacked by the savages in North America or attacked by the savages in Africa. And they'll raise the whole next generation with this high-level anger of, I need to go get my family back. I want to go get my father back. So then 20, 30 years later, they'll come back into the same tribal group. And they'll be like, John, we're looking for you. Like, what the fuck happened, bro? You were supposed to be, you know, you got a family over here back in England. And by this time, John had documented all the activities of the tribe. He had learned their language. He had learned their astrology. He had learned all of their cycles and rituals and customs and clothing. And the chief says, no, John is a part of this tribe now. You know, he's here with us, you know, and they're like, nah, we're not dealing with none of that. John, you forgot about your family. Like, what are you talking about? So then it'll be like, okay, we're going to go to war over John. John's coming with us. And it was like, all right, then let's go to war. So then they go to war. And guess what? The Europeans got like 100 ships right around the mountain. And you didn't even know it. So then as soon as the war horn gets blown, all these ships come up the coast and they annihilate. And you didn't even, or they'll wait till 3, 4 in the morning and come through and annihilate. And the natives didn't know nothing about this, you know, and they weren't expecting for that type of activity to occur. But that is one of the tactics that was used. They would wait for 20, 30 years and then come back and act like they didn't know and strike off, just wipe out the people. All the people weren't taken out by diseases. You know, a lot of that whole thing about the disease taking out a lot of people is to cover up the mass level of torture and slaughter that they put down on people. Okay. So in 1783, 1793, England, Liverpool ships sold a total of 303,737 slaves in the West Indies. That's in the space of 10 years. 1789, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen had a great effect on the Black slaves of Saint Domingue with the French Revolution slogan of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Black slaves felt more hope than ever that they might experience the freedom they never had before. 1790, slaves revolted in Haiti. A ration for blacks to whites were 11-1. On plantations, blacks outnumbered whites 100-1. Okay. The Old revolt occurred in 1790 as well. 1791, August 15th, or some say the 22nd, Haitian slaves led by Voodoo priest Duddy Buckman, is how his name is pronunciated, gathered to plan a revolution. Toussaint Overture, I forgot how to enunciate that last name, joined the slave rebellion in Saint Domingue against Overture, okay, thank you, against plantation owners and later led a colonial revolt against France. 1793, August 29th, slavery was abolished in the French colony of Santo Domingo. Did I? Oh my goodness, lost my position here. Okay. Oh yeah, and the word zombie comes from Zambia, just to let you know. And I'll be giving you a couple of keys on what that whole zombie thing really is, because that is a part of the metaphysics of slavery that is here in America. A zombie is from the zombie of what we know is different than the undead of the witchcraft. Okay, so in 1793, the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793. This law put fugitive slaves at risk for recapture for the rest of their lives, but some slave owners did not think that it was strong enough. It also classified children born to fugitive slave mothers as slaves and the property of their mother's master for the rest of their lives. 1795, Tula's slave revolt was a month-long conflict on the island between escapees and the colonial government. Okay, 1795, Fedon's Rebellion was an uprising against British rule of Grenada, predominantly led by free mixed race French speakers. Although a significant number of slaves were involved, they fought on both sides. The stated purpose of the rebellion was to create a black republic just like Haiti. 1798, first reliable census, 1,582,000 slaves and 406,000 free Negroes in a total population of 3,250,000 in America. 1804 to 1844, the first 3 Black Haitian presidents were against voodoo and tried to suppress it. 1805, the population of Haiti was 380,000. The first constitution of Haiti created a non-hereditary empire under Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Sorry about that. This constitution provided for freedom of religion. It also banned most whites from citizenship or owning land in Haiti and declared all citizens Black in an effort to end a racist system based on lightness of skin. The Vatican did not accept or recognize Haiti as a republic and did not send priests. Okay. 1812, one of the most prominent slave rebellions in Cuba, the Aponte Conspiracy of 1812. 1816, Bussa's Rebellion was the largest slave revolt in Barbadian history. The rebellion takes its name from the African-born slave Bussa, who led the rebellion, which was defeated by British forces. Bussa's Rebellion was the first of 3 large-scale slave rebellions in the British West Indies that shook public faith in slavery in the years leading up to the abolition of slavery in the British Empire and emancipation of former slaves. It was followed by the large-scale rebellion in Demerara, which Demerara is another name for a sugar company today, okay, in 1823, and by an even larger rebellion in Jamaica in 1831-32. Collectively, these are often referred to as the late slave rebellions. In 1822, the Martinique slave uprising, a slave insurrection that resulted in 2 dead and 7 injured. The government condemned 19 slaves to death, 10 to the galleys, 6 to whipping, and 8 to helping with the executions. 1823, in the morning of August 18th, in what is known as the Demerara Rebellion, 10 to 12,000 slaves drawn from plantations on the east coast of the Demerara colony rebelled under the belief that their masters were concealing news of the slaves' emancipation. Demerara was a colony ruled by the Dutch from 1745 to 1815. It was located in modern-day Guyana. Demerara is considered the capital of brown sugar. Yeah. See, there's a company right now. There's a brand right now of sugar named Demerara. Okay. So what happens here is just like I was stating with the kicked out of heaven, 10 to 20,000 slaves drawn from plantations. So you best believe there's thousands and thousands of souls wrapped up into that word Demerara because of who was killed in that location, which makes the word alive. Okay, and which influences you for purchases now today on your shelves, okay? Now, in 1823, the Great Jamaican Slave Revolt was an 11-day rebellion that started on 25th of December and involved up to 60,000 of the 300,000 slaves in Jamaica. The uprising was led by a Black Baptist preacher named Samuel Sharp and waged largely by his followers. 1833, Slavery Abolition Act of the British Empire was put in place. In 1837, a bill was signed that presented to the British Parliament requiring that slave ships immediately after condemnation should be broken up entirely and sold in separate parts. Do you see this? A bill was put in place for slave ships to be broken up entirely and sold in separate parts. This was to defeat the repurchasing of vessels for reemployment in the slave trade. So here is a bill that defeats all of this talk about ain't no slave ships, where they at? They ain't in no museums, blah, blah, blah. This bill was put in place that they had to be broken down. The wood was sold for firewood. It could be dried out, sold for firewood in your home, sold for your kennel and keep your stove running. They melted down all the nails, made chains and made other things out of the nails, and voila, the ship is gone. We made more money off of selling the ship, off of destroying it. The Creole case in 1841 was the result of an American slave revolt. It has been ranked as the most successful slave revolt in U.S. history. Okay. In 1847, Faustin Soulouque was president, and he was president in Haiti and revived Voodoo, or Vaudoy, should I say. 1850, Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 was put in place. In 1860, Catholicism now accepts Haiti. It's too late. Catholicism had been fused with Voodoo and African gods by then. 1862, an act prohibiting the return of slaves. In 1872, shipping commissioners, the act was put in place, okay? Many of the rebellions and wars you just read about are only a snippet of the events. The actual revolutionaries and what took place will be given more detail further into the book. There were many laws that were passed, altered, and erased during the times. Many lives were taken and many stories were rewritten. Ships disappeared into the fog and were never seen again. Children went to gather fruits and were never seen again. Unpredictability was the order of the times, okay? Unpredictability was the order of the times. A lot of things were altered. A lot of things were erased. Certain individuals, like the Nanny of the Maroons, is actually a conglomerate of a lot of different females who held rebellions during those times. So it's all smoke and mirrors, and it's very difficult because you hear a lot of screams, and you see, you know, the bodies of men who were boiled in molasses running in the smoke. So this time was very difficult. It's very hard to get the literature of what was going on. The areas that has this literature are the courts of France, Italy, so on and so France and Spain specifically, so on and so forth. And you have to understand that, guess what? These courts still have the documents to this day in their courtrooms, in their buildings, okay, in their basements. Now, the thing is that they may be written in a dialect or that we can no longer decipher because the jargon of that time and also the slang terminology that time that was fused with the language is outdated. So for us to find translators that can translate what was going on is going to be very difficult. We have to, it's a lot of, it's either leave this whole thing alone or be prepared to go on 100 years of research and dedicate your whole bloodline to trying to figure this thing out. Because it's a lot of stuff that was lost, a lot of stuff that was confused, and a lot of stuff had to be burnt up so we could develop the new world. And that's what happened, you know, and that's inclusive with the books that was born in Maya, the books that was burned in Inca, Aztec. They did have literature. They did know how to smelt gold. We do not know the details of government and the details of their civilization. We have to sit and wait for a History Channel episode for us to get that info, and they got it. We don't, you know, and we have to dedicate ourselves to figure this thing out. But that's all there is to it. So is there any questions? I hope I didn't offend anybody by the nigga being on the title of the book. Okay.
You know I love your crazy ass. This was amazing. This was amazing, bro. I just, the chronology and how you just list everything out where do you go get this, man? It's amazing. It's amazing. And what I love about one of the things that was really good, because you know how some of us get, for all of the young kids who are talking about there was no slave ships and where they at and all of that, when you showed that the law that they had to break those ships up and what have you, that's why there's no physical evidence of these ships in museums. That was genius, absolute genius. Thank you for bringing that to us.
Well, like I've told, like we had a discussion about it. There's actually a group inside of a Florida university that is dedicated towards finding slave ships, and they have found more than one on the coast of Mississippi and another one on the coast of Alabama. Now, we also have to remember that there's a lot of islands all around here, and this is where we get the Gula and the Geechee. When we talk about what's going on in South Carolina, what's going down on Florida, what's going down on Mississippi, Georgia, they all have islands off the coast that are not talked about, nor are we educated about them. This includes Hawaii too. Hawaii is 170 islands over there, you know, but they only show us the 7, you see. So, you know, there's like I said, we would have to do strong dedication of our own bloodlines in order to figure this thing out. It's so gone in the wind is the term I'm going to use, that some of us would have to actually locate to France and live in France.
Live over there,
in order to dig it all out and get up into their court systems and figure this literature out. We would have to learn ancient France. We might have to learn ancient Latin. We might have to learn ancient Greek to figure this stuff out. But it is available and it is here. You know, the whole thing is do we have the shovel to dig it up? Okay. And you could.
Incredible.
This stuff.
Now, how did you source all of this information? It had to be multiple. There was multiple books.
You know, there's also Wikipedia as well. The way I had to organize it was I understood that I was in the midst of chaos, and with me being, and I already survived the tornadoes of the Sabbath and the witchcraft, so being able to be in a tornado and pick some now wasn't nothing hard for me to really do. And then I understood I didn't have a true way to line up everything. So there's tribes mentioned and what the activities of the tribes were. The timeline was very important because within the timeline, what you just saw was a bunch of acts that were passed. You saw a bunch of bills that were passed, and you saw a bunch of rebellions that occurred. And that is the meat of the movement and the creation of a civilization or a culture. And
well, you know, we talk about what we call the Fantastic Four, and that's linguistics, archaeology, anthropology, and law. Most people in the social sciences, they leave the law part out. But the law part is excruciating. It's probably the most important because once it becomes a law, then it changes and informs the behavior of the culture. So and I love that part. That just blew me away.
Right, and
it's hard to debate. You can't debate it. Go ahead.
What type of violence are you using to enforce the law?
Right, exactly. Absolutely.
Who is enforcing the law? Do you have policemen? Do you have security guards? Do you have bouncers at the club door? What are we doing? How are you enforcing the law? You see what I'm saying? So that's another area, and we're going to go through some of those enforcement tactics that was occurring. And then we also have to understand that this is the beginning of the European meeting the native, and this is in a free land where they're not underneath extreme Catholic order that would send them to the middle of the market and burn their ass for whatever they're doing. So
that's the other thing I love about this too, is that you also show, hey, this is what was happening also over in Europe at the same time.
Right.
Because we normally talk about history in a linear fashion, but it's happening all over the world simultaneously, right? And so I really appreciate that aspect of it.
That had to bop me upside the head. Because I was extremely in the tribal area, right? I was extremely psychologically, I'm extremely in Jamaica, Barbados, Central America. I wasn't even thinking about what I just did with the medieval. And then it just whacked me upside the head like, yo, these are the 1500s that we're talking about. I was just studying the 1500s in Europe. And these cats was burning up their women and they was doing all types of wild shit. So I had to sync that mentality with what was occurring over here in the islands, and it showed a lot. And then also with the criminals that were being brought to these islands, and what they had free legions to do whatever they wanted, and that's exactly what was going on. They were skinning cats, boiling cats. There was, you know, doing all types of activities that wasn't inside the psyche of the tribal people. Like I mentioned the mosquitoes earlier. The mosquitoes are egalitarian. So they were at an equal level of, you know, female ownership and male responsibility, female responsibility, male responsibility. That was synced together. And they still operate like that to this day. Okay. Yeah. And they look black just like
also
us.
What was great is when you broke down, just think about the mindset of, you know, leaving John behind, going back, saying, oh, they got taken by the savages and all of this, and then go back 20, 30 years just to wait. That speaks to the fascination of violence and the thrill of the hunt and the sick mindset that you have to do something like that. And then have 100 ships behind the mountain and just annihilate a group of people, man. That's insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, once again, unfortunately, that's one of those scenarios that rounds back to the law of nature. You know, we like to operate off of a lot of sympathy, and sympathy is optional. I mean, optional when it comes to human thinking. We don't have to use sympathy if we don't want to. So, you know, when it comes to the law of nature, if I have more, you know, hyenas on my team, I can devour you, and I will, and I will take whatever you have. And that is just the law of nature. And I mean, we like to blind ourselves to it, but that's just the law. I mean, I can't go against the law. I mean, that's just what operates. Let me send you walking through the middle of the jungle of Africa and see if 2-3 lions come upon you and what's going to happen. You think they're going to give you sympathy? You think they're going to put coins in your cup? They're not going to put no coins in the cup. You are lunch today. You understand? And that's all there is to it. Okay.
Questions and answers and comments to the bookman himself.
The bookman, Duddy Bookman. Yeah, don't do this. No, because see, I find myself in all of these, all the literature I've written, I find myself.
15 north.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Maria. You have something?
No, but I will, now that I'm on this hot seat, I will. I have been moving around since he has been lecturing. That was extraordinary.
Wasn't it?
It was extraordinary. The part got me when he found out that they made a law to tear down those slave ships. That's why we don't have them. Yeah, now that was some powerful stuff right there.
Wasn't it? And also the mulattoes, just the
that was another one too.
Of the mixture. That was insane. Yes. It's like, yes, I had to realize, like, oh shit, we have to address this.
If you think that is something, wait till we go over the names of the slave ships. Wait till we go over the islands and why they're named after saints. You think this was something right here? There's nothing compared to what's coming. Wait till we go over the gods, because a god like Ogun, that's actually a physical location in Africa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So now I'm going to be teaching you the liveliness of a god. The liveliness of a word. It has to be operated by a battery. That battery has to have life in it. Okay.
So is that like a frequency, a vibration? The word, or
well,
when you say battery,
right? When I say battery, that means keeping it alive. So when you say the word, so when you say Ogun, and Ogun in your psyche is a god, but the reality of the word Ogun is a physical location in Africa that is a city where people live. So the city where people live, being named Ogun, is the battery that keeps, it is the heart pumping
keeps the Ogun,
that keeps the Ogun god alive.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
And
Yes.
one other thing too that I thought was amazing too, when you said that they put together herbs and different things in order to take out the slave master. They put all these potions and things like that. And so they put that in the law that they were not to do that. And that's just where they told us, you know, now that, oh yeah, that's voodoo. We can't practice that. They did that because they knew we were doing that. Right.
Right. And but that also goes back to the witchcraft of Europe. The Jews were supposedly doing that and started the plague. The witches were supposedly doing the same thing and were starting the plague. So they understood the power of herbs. And guess what? That's why they synthesize these herbs and develop your lotions, which are called unguents. All your makeups and all of that stuff is just desensitized herbs. You know, I mean, yeah, they break them down to different chemicals of what's inside the plant, and then they use those chemicals for your makeup. Okay, for your food, for the preservatives that are inside your food. So they understand herbs on a larger scale, and this law, inclusive with a lot of other laws, that separates human intelligence from plant intelligence. You see, put us in the position of being consumers inside the grocery store, because a lot of these plants have principalities as well. You see, the majority of the plants that we eat, we don't understand its principalities because we don't watch it grow. You see, so so there's some plants that are attached to certain bugs, like the ladybug or the grasshopper, that actually assist it within its growth. And when we have those levels of comprehensions, now you have a thorough intelligence of its capabilities inside the magic/occult realm.
Okay, now you just blew me the hell away with that.
And that makes sense because we invented all this before they even arrived. So we had mastered this.
Whoa.
So you know how they say we got junk DNA? I don't know if we had junk DNA back in the day, fam. We used our full brain. We were badass. I'm just saying.
But what you said just now, that lends itself to, I mean, in my mind, what just popped in my mind was, you just said something like that the plants have principalities, right? And we don't watch these things grow. And one plant belongs to the ladybug, the other one might belong to another bug. So it's like, what kind of frequency are we eating?
You're eating, like, okay, if we were to compare it to a human, compare a plant to a human, you're only getting the foot, you're only getting the big toe, you're not getting the whole plant. So due to the fact that you don't get the whole plant, you don't get the full essence of what it is.
And you don't get the intelligence. You can't download the intelligence of it.
You can't download the intelligence, like an aloe vera. Aloe vera has spikes on the side. So aloe vera can be, because I understand principalities, so aloe vera has spikes. And those spikes look similar to what? The saw that you use to cut your bushes?
Right.
So aloe vera can be used in the context of healing a scar or creating a scar. It can be weaponized.
That's what I'm talking about. The weaponization.
But if you don't understand,
right. See, because what's sold to us is usually all of the positive stuff, right, about the plant. Not the other side of it, right? Which is probably what our folks knew. Am I making sense? You understand what I'm saying?
We would understand both. You know, so plants have definitions similar to colors. So you got a positive side to it, and you have a negative context to it. You know, so go ahead.
Sorry, and the only reason why it stands out to me, I mean, y'all know my story. I don't need to be going through talking about cancer. But what I'm saying is that, you know, when you're talking about health kind of stuff these days, it's more so, oh, this is good for you, and eat organic and do this and do that. But we're not understanding the other side, the whole essence, like you're talking about, of the entire plant. That might not be good for us, even if it is natural, because it has a principality attached to it, which we don't know what the hell it is. We're already under magic spells, so we might be eating something. That's where my mind went. Like,
and let me show you something real quick. Remember, a lot of slave masters would say things like, "Oh, you know, Africans, they're so endurable. They can take all of this weight. They can take all of this work." Why? Because the mineral content of the food had us at a higher strength position on our bodies.
Right.
So we could endure. The white boy could endure. The Spanish could, the Mexicans could endure a way larger pain and can endure way larger amounts of violence than what we can today. I mean, you can see it through our football players. Football players of today ain't nothing like the football players of the 60s. Okay.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
That's because of the mineralization of the food has been broken down. It has been depleted. Right.
See, and that's what I mean. We don't understand. We are only given snippets of what the plant is, right? Okay. And because, anyway, we're only given snippets. Like what you said that has me on a whole nother, because now when I'm going to eat food, I want to know the entire essence of what the hell I'm eating. And do I need to be eating it, even if you're telling me that broccoli is good? Is it really good? What's the entire essence of it?
When you really understand business, they say broccoli and asparagus has the highest mineral content when it comes to our vegetables, and neither one of them have seeds. Okay, those are tuber plants that were created by Gregor Mendel in the early 1930s and 40s.
Right.
The tubers are the asparagus, the broccoli, the celery, the onion. A lot of these things don't have seeds. What they really are is vessels that are containing a specific mineral content.
Darn you, Keenan! Now I gotta change my whole grocery list.
Hey, Melinda, he's a real nigga, ain't he? No, I'm just messing with him. Anyway,
nigga, this is real nigga shit up in here. You understand me?
I had to. I'm sorry, I had to. I love you too much. I had to.
No, fuck it. That's exactly what it is. This is real nigga shit up in here. You understand? And that's how I'm going to break it down. But Gregor Mendel is the one that created tubers in a laboratory. All of those plants are, if it doesn't have a seed, you can thank him. Okay. Seeds have a higher mineral content than the actual plant. So if you want to get the highest mineral content of a fruit or vegetable, then it'd be best for you to just grind up its seeds and eat it, especially today. So because one peach of today, it takes 64 peaches of today to match up the same mineral content of one peach in the 1960s.
Yeah.
Right.
It takes 64 of them. Okay. So that shows you the depletion in mineral content. It shows you that we're underneath attack. Something is attacking us. It's through our food, it's through our historical intelligence, it's through our biological intelligence. There's gender wars. All of this nonsense is something is trying to deplete the human off this planet, trying to destroy us. I don't know what it is. I can't point the finger. Reptilian, Illuminati, Black Pope. I don't know. I know something is trying to kick our ass. Yeah, that's real nigga got 245s and AKs and ARs up in this motherfucker. So I'll let you know right now, that's what real nigga is. Come over here with that dumb shit. We gonna see. You understand?
Maria, you have something else to
I'm sorry,
to go on?
Maria.
Well, you know what? No, that's cool. That's cool. Another thing too to consider too. Most of us, we were, like you said, the whole thing, one outfit, we wore one set of clothes for a whole year, no shoes. Our feet on the ground at that time gave us grounding every day. So we were really attached to the earth. So all that genius, all those inventions, this is how I look at it. We were getting that information from Mother Earth. And it's during that time when we invented all that music, all those inventions, because we were grounded. That's how I look at it.
Exquisite.
Yeah. So what I got highlighted on the screen is his name was Bartholomew. Bartholomew de las Casas wrote a short account of the destruction of the Indies in 1542. So that's one of the root materials that I used for.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and cop that up. It's available online, available on eBay and whatnot. But this is the essence of it. You know,
you want to spill, you want to give us a little tea for what we're going to do next week. And I remember when we talked to put this together, you're out of town one of these weeks in the 6 weeks, or did you rearrange your schedule?
No, I'm not out of town. You had it on August 2nd, and that's my birthday. So I had to, do my thing for my little birthday, but I'm not out of town. I'll be here.
Okay.
The next show that we're doing next Wednesday is about the slave ships. And that will be a hardcore metaphysical, emotional lecture or teaching that is going on. So I want you all to be there because it is very, very important about what was going on with the slave ships, how they were titled, and what those titlings have to do with us today, how we relate with each other, how we relate with civilization, how we operate inside our occupations, and all of that. So it's going to be very, very serious that we get to that layer. I didn't mean to take down there we go. For us to get to that, for us to understand the slave ships. And I'll be going over 55 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll be going over 55 different slave ships and what occurred. There was a lot, and Amistad is also in there. So,
do you have information on where to find? You're talking about I'm still stuck on the principality of the plants. So do you have? Listen, I have to change my whole dietary.
I know, right? We got to have a conversation.
Are you gonna write a book on that, or do a thing on that, or where can I find something on it until you write the book? Because I know you're gonna do something on it.
You got commission,
Melinda, I have a connection for you on that very subject.
Cool.
Yeah, give it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get the information and send it over to you.
Please do.
Yeah, because that is you have to understand. I've studied so many different subjects that there's subjects within side subjects.
Right.
So intelligence on other areas have been built up over time. But Gregor Mendel is the individual for the tubers. If you wanted to learn the metaphysics of plants overall, just study plants. Develop you a little garden inside the house. Sit back and watch. It's on YouTube. There's tons of stuff on YouTube.
Of course. You can watch how a tomato grows.
Yeah, you can watch how a tomato grows.
Yeah, but I mean, do they term it the principality of plants?
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's a Keenan Booker thing. That's what I want. Don't be trying to get out of it, there.
You want the interpretation from the doc himself.
That's
I understand that.
Right.
Okay, I get it.
I ain't mad.
That's one of those things that will sync with you through nature. Okay, there will be that invisible electricity that occurs within that.
She's not buying it, bro. It ain't working. It ain't working. You're working against yourself right now, Keenan. You're working against yourself.
Okay.
Listen, you gonna write a book?
You better get that. You better get your typing skills together. You got another book to write, bro.
That's right.
And she's military, so come on. She ain't playing with nobody.
I'm just saying, Keenan. Now you got to give it up now.
You don't want that real nigga coming at your house.
Okay. Let me tell you one area it is in.
Okay.
When you study mythology systems and folklore stories.
Okay.
They use a lot of plants, and they use how the plant is being used inside those stories, and what will also express what it represents. Okay. A lot of these things correlate to the courting of man and woman, and also those principalities that are that are in between man and woman in our social structure. So for instance, Cinderella's the pumpkins turn into wheels and turn into the carriage, stuff like that. You'll find those stories throughout, and then not only that, it correlates to a lot of sexual activity. Basically, plants do. It correlates to your viralness and your vitality. Okay. So I didn't want to get explicit, but that's what a lot of the plant kingdom does correlate to. There's going to be offense, defense, social structure, and male and female courting. Okay.
Okay, just make it available and make sure you send the, send
the first draft to Melinda Staten.
Yeah,
okay. I get
and send the little the author's
hilarious
thing that you send us, the authentication certificate.
The certificate. The certificate.
Yeah. Sorry, King. You called me, so hey.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I get it.
Oh, and you think she's kidding? She's not.
Okay.
All right.
Buy the book. If you just say that you don't want nigga on there, I'll put a little electric tape right there for you. Okay, it'll be real etiquette.
You ain't got no sense at all.
If you're offended, okay.
I swear to God. Any other questions and comments for Keenan tonight on this topic before I send Will Smith over there to slap his ass?
No, ain't no Will Smith gonna slap him. I'll tell you that shit.
Will would make it through the parking lot to the gate. I swear to God, he wouldn't make it.
I'm telling you, okay.
He wouldn't make it.
So,
any other questions? Seriously, though, any other questions or comments, family?
I definitely want to hear from Miss Hinton. Yeah, and thank you, Melinda, for everything for being here throughout the entire ride. And same with Miss Hinton. I definitely want to hear what you have to say after everything that occurred today.
Well, thank you, Keenan, for exquisite research. My question is, who is the Negro and who is the slave?
Do you want the details on that question? Okay, look, the word slave comes from Slavic. Slavic is southern Germany. Germany is where the Moors were at during this time. Okay, they were in southern Germany. So when they started the whole slave trade thing, and they were also depreciating a lot of the Black Moorish royal families in Europe, they switched the term from Slavic, or basically the region and the culture, because that's where they were at geographically, was southern Germany, which is where the Slavic thing is at. Okay, they moved it on, and they moved it on to African Americans, and also added the term Negro, which destroyed the Moorish term. And that's why we didn't hear nothing about Moors again until the internet started. Now, where is right? But you ain't hear nothing about no Moors, no civil rights.
That's right.
We didn't hear nothing about no Moors during no Noble Drew Ali, no 1920s, when no Marcus Garvey, no none of that. Okay, so the Moorish thing was destroyed in old Europe, as they took the Slavic word from the Moors and took the ick part off and made it Slav slave and added it on to African Americans, which also created the word Negro, which comes from necro, necromancer, to be dead.
Ooh.
Okay, Negro comes from necro, which means to be dead. Okay, which you are the dead carcass. And I was just talking with a friend today. I think that's how they got the black male set up. We are the dead carcass that all the vultures of this human existence feed off of. It's the black male. We get picked at. And we get picked at, and we're not even supposed to recognize that we're getting picked at. And as soon as we do recognize that we're getting picked at, oh, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? I don't believe in any form of abuse. So whether it's black woman, white woman, Hispanic woman, white male, anybody come at me with the bullshit, you're going to get the delivery. Okay. I don't do this, oh yeah, pick on me and abuse on me, and I'm not going to say nothing, but I'm going to merge into your culture and your liking. So you could be comfortable. I'm worried about my comfort, not yours. You understand? And that's just what's been going on. So that's where the Negro word comes from. Negro comes from necro. Slave comes from Slavic. Slavic was Moorish. As the Moors got destroyed, Slavic turned into slave for Negro. Okay. Were there Moorish slave traders? Yes. Underneath the Portuguese system and assisted with the Columbus system and Spaniard. When you say Spain, all you're saying is half European, half nigger. Okay. That's really what you're saying. And that's the way Europe has it set up. And if you look at it geographically, Africa is right here, Spain is right here, and then comes France. France is all white. And that's why France being all white, all the metaphysics stems from France. Okay, when it comes to the establishment of Louisiana, or even when it comes to the worshiping of the Black Madonna, that all comes from France. Okay, and also France had the strongest military throughout the course of medieval times. Okay.
Phenomenal. All right, family.
Yoshima, you got something? Come on, homie. You got something to say? Come on.
Thank you. And you do a wonderful job, and I love your work. Me being an artist, I wish you would make it out into a song, personally. I'm just saying. I think that you ought to write a book because you don't want that talent to go to waste. So I think you should, you had a book. I think you should really write an album pertaining to that book. And that way you can explain the nigga etiquette and all that at free will. That's just me personally. I love to tag team with you on it. You know what I'm saying? I could get down and dirty with it. But for the most part, I'm here because you are a great researcher.
No shit. No question. No question about it.
You go hard. And I'm going to talk to you streets, man. You go fed, man. You go fed. Mm-hmm. So I'm with you 100% as far as your research and how you break everything down. Yeah. That go hard to me. I feel that. Mm-hmm. So where you coming from, I respect it. I respect it totally. And I ain't, with the nigga stuff, I just thought personally that you was trying to make it cool. Like bring it back out again. Personally, that's what I thought. And that's why you put it on that cover to kind of,
here's the question. It was here 100 years before us. Our grandparents use it, our great-grandparents use it. Now, let me ask you, how many more generations do you think is going to go on? How many more generations do you think we're going to use that word?
I truly, I think that, to be honest, I think within our community, we can get it rid of, but just like with everything that we do, there's going to be other cultures that's going to embrace it. Just like right now, Spanish is calling each other niggas, Asian. So the juice of it has worn down. I see it. And I see that the impact of that word is wearing out. But with anything that us Black folks create and they take over, we're like, that shit old. Y'all calling each other niggas and y'all sagging. That shit old, man.
I've seen country white boys use the word. Now, here's the thing.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about country white boys using the word amongst country white boys. There's no Black person in sight, and they fighting. Beat his ass. Yeah. They doing all of that. Now, here's the thing. Yeah. I'm an MC. There is an album correlated to this book, The Poltergeist. The song The Poltergeist has all the souls of the Caribbean in it. And you'll hear that once you hear that song. I'm an MC and I use the word nigga a
Doesn't that come with the book?
Right.
Doesn't that come with the book?
Yeah, it does. It comes with the book. So I use that word a lot, and I've had white fans, repeat my lyrics, and they got nigga all of it. What do I do? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh shit. So, they're in the position of the fan. I shot myself in the foot. It does happen. I've used the word. I've heard my grandparents use the word, whatever the case. I mean, I'm going to tell you like this. I've studied so many wars, decapitations, burnings at the stake, and activities of mankind that certain words, it's not going to affect. My maturity level is a little too high for, once you go to certain zones in history that are detailed by the reality of what occurred, you end up right there in the audience. Okay. So I've seen it. I've heard the screams. I've seen the blood spill. I've seen the boiling bodies, and a word like nigga really doesn't affect me. My maturity level has gone too high for a lot of things to it. It takes a very large amount of activity and behavior to make.
Let me ask you this, Keaton, about that. When you said this, you said that this Was it the research that pissed you off, or what you discovered pissed you off, and you just threw it at the wind?
Yeah.
Was that a cathartic for you? Was that a catharsis? Is that out of you? Did you let it go, or where are you with it? Because every time, whenever you do deep research like this and do a book and whatever, it becomes a living, breathing thing. It becomes a part of you.
Yes.
And like actors, when they do a certain role, sometimes they have to go somewhere to get that frequency of the totality of whatever that is out of them. How did that land for you?
I guess because I've been through a lot of crazy experiences before I started writing books. That one thing about me is I don't like influence. That's why I don't watch TV. And I don't watch movies. I don't like influence. I don't like social engineering. So when it comes to these books that I've written, and they're talking about real energies and real gods from a lot of different mythology systems that I've studied, I have a system where I could just embody it and put it on a shelf. And if I need it, if I need to use it again, I can and I will.
Nice.
The energies
that's good.
That's in the witchcraft, I could use it if I need to. If I need to pull up Ogun, I can at any given second. In a millisecond, and I actually had to learn that happened to me through certain experiences that occurred on the streets when I was out with people, and people can feel it around me. If I get angry, bro, I can put 100 skeletons in the room, bro, and you will feel it. You will feel it in the room. A lot of the stuff they talk about in Hollywood when it comes to these certain situations are real. And, my name is Keenan Booker, which means ancient bookmaker. So I have the right. I have the born given right for that. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's the best way I can answer that question. A lot of people see it in my eyes and they get very scared of me. They just, so, I mean, yeah.
All right. Ralph, Rhonda, and Stephanie, you guys have anything that you'd like to contribute, or questions or comments to Brother Booker? Going once, going twice.
Okay, and let me say this.
And they're out of here.
Let me say this for the record before we close. I've never killed a goat. I've never cut off a chicken's head. I've never had a boiling pot or a cauldron inside my home. You understand this? I got to clear this because a lot of people are
why
very
do you
empty
even
credit.
have to say that?
No, because
we're not looking at you and saying, well,
I know you are of the scholar community, and guess what? 99.9% of the world is not. So when they see a voodoo edition, they don't know that it's a study of this and that and this and that. They think I'm over here dancing around with masks on my face at 3 o'clock in the morning, and that is not the case. Okay, so let's reinstate this. I've never killed a goat. I've never slaughtered a chicken. I don't do no witchcraft practices. I don't write on the wall in blood. Please stop being an inferior and immature with your thought pattern and develop with some intellect here. Okay, these are areas of history that need to be thoroughly understood and clarified, and that's what I've done. It's all called books, and that's it. Okay, so and I'm not saying that for my community. Of course, all of y'all are intellectuals. I'm saying that for the listeners and the watchers abroad when this is loaded up on YouTube and whatnot. So stop being a child. Being Sesame Street. We're grown.
We're emotional. People. I have to say.
Right. Oh, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. All right, my family. This was a good one. This is a good one. This is amazing. And I'm sorry that you have to write another book, Keenan, for Melinda. But bruh, I think I even told you that I think I told you to write a book on something. I was like, you need to do some research just because it's your research methodology that is par excellence. I mean, your research, the level and how you do it in such detail, incredible, man, what you do.
The Principality of Plants.
Okay, you got the title. She ain't playing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. All right, family, let's gather ourselves, shall we?
All right.
And give thanks and give honks to this king. King Bookman.
Yeah, Daddy Bookman. I get it.
A real nigga.
A real.
Damn it.
Hey, you ain't supposed to be using that word.
Okay.
I get it.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, right.
Y'all ain't right. Y'all ain't right at all. Matter of fact, Melinda, I'm gonna let you close us out tonight.
Oh Lord.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
What Chris Rock said, good Lord.
Yeah.
Loud.
That's a lot of money.
Lordy,
Okay.
Miss Cloudy.
Okay.
How much for 2 words?
Ooh, stop.
Come on.
I can't
Oh,
take
I love my family. I love y'all so much. I needed this. This is my community. I needed this. I missed y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, because we were off last week with Clyde. And I was like, oh, I need that energy. Come on, family, let's do it. All right, go ahead, Goddess.
All right. This was just so good. So again, King, thank you, Dr. Shock, for having this platform. We appreciate you. And with that, we say, I am one with first frequency.
I am one with first frequency.
I am one with the first thought idea.
I am one with
the first thought idea.
I am one with the firstborn people.
I am one with the firstborn people.
I am one with the only one.
I am one with the only one.
Ashe.
Ashe.
So it is.
And so it is.
And get yourselves on the wait list for the Principality of Plants.
Oh my goodness. Hey, no, but y'all
just so you know, this is on record. This is being recorded.
And that's gonna be
and say, oh, I don't remember.
Go check out that song. Go check out that song, The Poltergeist, the God 720. It's on Spotify. It's a hardcore.
And watch Chevrolet. Is it Chevalier?
Yeah, watch the movie Chevalier too. The movie Chevalier is very important for Moorish history and what was going on in Europe with Marie Antoinette, that was underneath her time period as a queen. And check out the song. Yeah, and check out the song The Poltergeist on the God 720, which is the soundtrack to this book. Okay.
Fantastic. All right, family. So give me 48 hours to turn this around, and you will have this in your inbox. Okay. And there's only about 5 copies of these left. So you better come and get them before they're all gone.
Well, fantastic. I expected. Well, I don't understand. I spent $54, but I don't know what that is.
Oh no, that's the book. So it'll be shipped out tomorrow.
Oh, okay, cool.
All right.
Okay. All right, family. Love you.
All right.
Okay. And where can we get? Do we have? Is there a site where we
love you?
The Black. What's
the name of the site? What's the name of the site where you?
It's in the chat. What is it?
The blackmansbible.com.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, the blackmansbible.com.
Okay.
All right, then.
Thank you.
Peace.